Charlie gonna bump us down here for a second. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie's running the boards for us, like always. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a thrilling show for you tonight. Every night. And our guest is coming to us from down under. In just a minute, we'll be back. So get up, tap your feet, snap your fingers above your head, and shake your booty a little bit. Get that blood circulating. Charlie's bringing the music down for us. I just love that tune. And by the way, we're coming to you live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. Many of you have been here before. Some of you decided to stay. And there we are. Let's get this out of the way here. And there we have Mr. Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me both of your ears. I thank you for taking the time to tune in to the George Espinlaub Show. One more time tonight. This is International Week. Let's see. Yesterday we had Harry and Paul. Harry was from Ireland. Paul was from Canada. Tonight we have Chris Herrmann from Australia. And Friday night we'll have Stephen Page out of Argentina. So this is International Week for sure. I was going to say something. This is what I was going to say. Espinlaub, get it right now. Straighten up here. Let me flip this thing off down here real quick. Go to the espinblog.com, espinblog.com, and you can read all about it, all about the Funny Farm, all about some serious stuff, all about some latest happenings. So there you can go. We want you to send us the email, georgece@comcast.net. That's georgece@comcast.net. And you know that we'll answer each and every one of them. We always did, we do, and we always will. So send us those emails. Let's see who we got coming in here tonight. Well, there's my bride of 51 years, and she says hello. So, hello, Mrs. Espinlaub. Let me see what else we got going on here before we get Chris all cranked up and wound up here. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make this just a little bit different. I'll get you over here. There you go. How's that? Made you bigger, Chris. Brought you in closer. Chris Herrmann from Perth, Australia, from down under. Chris, it is now 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time. What time is it where you're at?
Oh, look, it's a very reasonable hour of 9:05 in the morning.
9:05 in the morning. 25 hours. Is that what it is? No, 13 hours?
13, yes, yeah.
13 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm here on Wednesday talking to you on Thursday morning.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So one thing I can tell you, like because we're 13 hours ahead, it's got a bit of an advantage. Like you got a lot to look forward to. This Thursday is a great day, so you got a lot to look forward to.
I my wife does a show on Facebook, and every now and then we get some visitors in from Australia, and it'll be that 13-hour difference. Uh, and I always tell her, ask them how their day's going because we're not there yet.
That's right. Yeah.
And you just answered the question.
Yeah.
Thursday's looking pretty good, is it?
Oh, it's looking great. No, it's you can wake up tomorrow morning. No, it's going to be a great day ahead of you.
All righty, all right. Because we heard from the man that is already there. I think that's just so neat. That's just so awesome. Let me put this book up here. This is Chris's book, and it is The Useful Art of Midlife Travel. Wow. One man's journey that will inspire us or inspire you to live your travel adventures. Wow. And Chris is going to tell us some of the happenings behind it. If you want that book, and you should get that book because it'll be a good read. It'll be a good read. I think it'll be quite entertaining. All you have to do is once I hit this button here, all you have to do is go to there. Youthful, youthful. Come on, Espinal. Youthful midlifetravel.com. And when you go there, there's a link. You'll click on it. It'll take you straight to Amazon. If you don't want to do that, then do this. To purchase the book, go to Amazon.com and type in Chris Herrmann. That's Herrmann. Two R's, two N's. And you will have it pop right up in front of you, like always. Let me see what else we got. Okay. My wife said, thanks for the info, Chris, about tomorrow. It's always good to know what you're going to face.
It's the least I could do to help.
Well, Chris, you have had an interesting experience, but until you experienced that experience, tell us a little bit about your early life, where you're from, and all those good things.
Yeah, well, obviously from Australia. Lived a while in the centre of Australia where some of the bushfires were recently. But the last, since about 2011, last 8 years, moved across to the west because that's where all our children happen to be establishing. They were in that stage. Our 3 children were establishing their own family. And my wife and I moved from Adelaide to Perth. We felt like a bit of a sea change or whatever you like to call it. So we came over here and basically enjoying the good life as our grandchildren were coming on one after another. Last tally, 7 grandchildren. And we were here as each grandchildren come along. We loved our home. Little grandchildren sort of come running up the door, give Nana and Papa a big hug, and it was living the life. And however, we weren't expecting that what was ahead of us, and that was within a week of my wife becoming ill, her life suddenly came to an end, and that's where things sort of more obviously took a change from there.
During the earlier part of your life, was you like most of the rest of us? You got up, you went to work, you did this, you did that, you come home. Was it pretty much the same kind of routine that most everybody goes through?
Oh yes, I mean we like when we moved from Adelaide, and that's to where I'm in Perth. That's the the most remote city or capital city in the world. So it's from one end of Australia to the other. But yeah, I mean, of course, you get into the routine way of life, and we have a bit of fun with along the same way. It's when you talk about routine, we had the National Ride to Work Day, so I was working from home, so I get my bicycle, I put all my lycra stuff in the kitchen, then ride about 5 meters to the bedroom. So I'm riding to work to my home office. But yeah, very much it's in that routine way of life. It's with family, friends, and that type of thing.
What kind of work did you do?
Had an online business. It was providing an online booking and payment service for corporates and not for profits for running conferences, that type of thing.
And then what happened?
Well, as I said, within a week of my wife becoming ill, that her life suddenly came in. But the key thing that sort of really stands out in my mind to this day is that is what she was saying in the final hours that she lay there. Just came on that suddenly, that she was just saying, "I can't believe it's happening. I can't believe it's happening," and just watching someone that that you love, you've shared your life for the last 40 years, just watching life literally being sort of drawn away. It was the most surreal moment of my life, just watching someone close take with it all the 40 years all you shared together, and what you were looking forward to in the future. And it was sort of from those words she kept saying that as time went by, that it just gave the urge to that I need just not to sit there, but need to move on with my life and embrace life that I've got.
Was she ill for a long time?
Yeah, well, she did have she had a cancer, what's known as multiple myeloma. But the fascinating thing was, well, interesting thing, I suppose, is that she was being treated for. She had some stem cell transplants, but in between that, for the majority of the time, people who didn't know her, they wouldn't know anything was wrong with her. Like she had more energy than I knew, couldn't understand where it came from. Like, in fact, she was selected for the state dragon boat racing competition, which is a fairly intensive sort of sport for her age category, and that was just a matter of weeks before she died. So while she was living with this condition, we just had the attitude that we would just look forward to life. That it was we're not looking back, we're looking forward. But then just quite suddenly, when she became ill, it all suddenly changed.
And with that, everything changed.
Well, that's right, and it was sort of interesting because it was at that point after she left, and about that time that our children and their families were relocating to remote parts of Australia with their work. So I found myself in a situation where I was 40 years ago, single, no dependencies, and I used to often joke about these young people in Australia. They call it, after they finish university or pre-university, they'll take off on what's commonly known as a gap year, and they go off traveling around the world for 12 months. And I used to joke, they should be more responsible and go get a job like the rest of us had to. Anyway, I'm thinking, well, maybe they're right after all. It's like I still had. I might not be 18 anymore, but I had good health and fitness, and because once again it was those. It's just going back to those words of my wife, those final words that just gave me the urge to live. And I'm thinking, well, maybe this gap year is not such a bad idea. In my case, my senior gap year. So I started to think seriously about doing it.
So I I remember reading somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you started off on this adventure, you just you just packed up a regular backpack. I mean, nothing fancy, nothing extravagant, just a regular backpack. Is that what it was?
That's right. Yeah, I just backpacked around the world just with a backpack no bigger than carrying luggage. But I guess it sounds, yeah, that's what I did. Just picked up a backpack and off you went. But the thing is, it wasn't that simple, and it wasn't that simple from the point of view that I had this crazy idea just to go back. I mean, it's the first time I'd been traveling on my own. I'd always travel with somebody or my wife or family. So I was going on this crazy adventure, nothing planned. All I booked was just one round the world ticket, just 3 stop offs and 3 to 4 months in between, nothing planned. And it was all those, because when I came up with this crazy idea, there's one person that was stopping me, and that person was me. It was that voice inside the head that sort of wants to keep us inside our comfort zone. That I'm going for 12 months. I'm going on my own. I'm too old. All these and what if you had a heart attack now and have a clue where you are? And so all these fears were going on in my mind, and in the end, it was I kept battling with that, trying to stay, keep me in my comfort zone. The voice inside the head. And eventually it sort of came to the point where it was a pull of my heart saying, you need to do this. And eventually it was like I eventually turned to the voice inside the head, as those, as I reflected back on my wife's final moments, as if I turned my voice inside the head, would just shut up, get on with it, we're going. And that's what I did. And like you said, it's just went backpacking around the world for just for the carrying luggage. But I will say that even there, that was I initially set off with a suitcase, because my first stop was in Spain and I rented a place there for 3 months. But then after that, because I ditched the suitcase and then just went backpacking for the rest of the trip. And if I liked the place, I stayed. If I didn't, I moved on.
From the time from the time that you got this quote quote crazy idea until the time you actually put feet to the ground, how much time expired?
It was probably a good 12, 18 months. It would have been by the time because before I left, once the idea was mudding my mind, and that fight going between keeping the comfort zone and wanting to do it. That sort of went on for probably 12 months, and then in the end, I sold the furniture, stored what was left, and headed off. But there's one thing that was still bugging me the whole time, even before I walked out the door for the last time, and that was I just felt as though I need the purpose. I mean, how can you just go traveling around the world just aimlessly, which I wanted to do, but it's still bothering me. And so I didn't have a purpose. I kept looking for a purpose, but I didn't have one. I went anyway, but little did I realise that a purpose far bigger than I ever could have dreamed of would soon reveal itself.
What there's my wife. Yeah, yep. Isn't that the truth? My oh my.
Now I can imagine what your wife is thinking, saying, "Well, it's okay. You're a guy, but I'm a woman, and things are different." Well, I've actually come across, in fact, my new partner. She travels far lighter than me, and her 85-year-old mother, when they go away, she travels just as light. So and dresses very very nice and presentable. So it can be done.
When you started getting these ideas, and then I imagine for a short period of time or for a while, you kept these ideas right inside your head and you didn't say anything to anyone. But when you did start to talk about this to other people, what was some of the reactions you got?
Well, I remember one person saying, a good friend said, "Oh, you'll be back in 3 months." And that was some of the place I was going. It's and just the fact that I was traveling on my own. So yeah, those things do stick in your mind, but in some ways it probably adds to the determination that you're going to do it. So, and another person said to me just before I was about to leave, he said, "Wow, this trip must be costing you a fortune." And it's just sort of struck me because that was never the intent. This never intended to be the trip of a lifetime. But in fact, the whole trip would have cost me less than if I was still living here in Australia at that time.
What? So the voice, the voice in your head, and then you voice it out to other people. What was your what like that person said? Made it seem like he was going on a venture of a lifetime. But what was the real purpose in doing this?
The purpose of doing the trip, to me, it was. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, were you sort of trying to find yourself?" Those type of things, and I've sort of struggled with that, and I never really believed that was the real motive behind it. What I was doing, I was really, because my life had changed to what I'd known, the family life and relationship with the wife, that was all gone. And I, at the same time, from the last words from my wife, it was sort of it sort of gave me the urge to sort of to embrace life. The fact there's someone you love and their life is just suddenly taken away in just a flash, that you realise that life is so precious, it can be taken away just at a moment's notice. And so it was that need to embrace life. And at the same time, I felt, well, my life had changed, so I really wanted to open the door to be able to explore, to look for opportunities, and that's why I did completely opposite the way my life is normally structured. I wanted no routines, nothing structured, nothing organised. So that's why all I'd book was just those 3 stop-offs around the world, one in one in Spain, one Central America, one Southeast Asia, and even when I flew into Madrid, I had nothing booked, and I had an idea that I might go to Valencia. But it's only when I got there, I spoke no Spanish, and I found my way to the train station. And it was only when I was on the train, I knew I was going to Valencia. Then I start to book some accommodation just for a few days till I could get there and work out where I wanted to stay. And that was, so it was really just, and I wanted, and it was a central principle, if you like. If it felt uncomfortable, then I wanted to do it, not in terms of personal risk, but just to stretch myself a bit, and that was really the whole motive behind the trip.
Were you living in Perth at that particular time, or were you living in another place?
No, I was living in Perth because that's where all our family were, and yeah. And it was a good, I had a good, good social life here, and a good circle of friends, and that's why the voice inside the head was saying, like, well, what are you doing this for? Like, it's life's comfortable here, like you're crazy. But at the same time, like after that 3 months in Spain, and I end up living in this 2,000-year-old city, middle of this 2,000-year-old city. But prior to that, when I first arrived, I remember speaking to my brother over the phone. He said, "Well, things aren't working out too well for you, are they?" Because I was having trouble finding accommodation. It was sort of one of those sinking feelings, like, oh no, what have I done? Here I am stuck on the other side of the world on my own. But it's one of those feelings I've experienced before, and probably like you and all your listeners have experienced as well, that if you stick with it, it'll work out. And true that, it did. And like I said, I rented this apartment right in the middle of this 2,000-year-old city, and be looking down my little apartment, typical Spanish apartment balconies, and the streets were alive with whining and dining, and be serenading in the streets, and fiestas going on, and I in the end, like, I went there, I didn't know a soul, but then after that 3 months, had this great little circle of friends, and And in fact, my social life was busier than it was here in Australia, and I thought it was busy here. And I guess the point is that, had I listened to that voice inside the head who really wanted to keep me in my comfort zone, I would have missed out on that fantastic experience. And that was just the start. There was still more to come when I took off backpacking.
So you went from Perth to Spain first.
That's right. Well, I did have a little bit of a side trip via Austria. I met up with my son and his family. They were visiting my daughter-in-law's family there, so I had about I don't know, 1 or 2 couple of weeks there before I actually then went to Spain. But Spain is where the rubber hit the road. I was on my own, and I just had to make it work.
So Spain was like your base camp, I guess, to where you was going to operate out of and from.
That's right, yeah. And a lot of people say, what's the highlight of the trip? Well, certainly backpacking, for the rest of the trip. I mean, that was a buzz. That was exciting, and not knowing where you're going to be from one day to the next. But in a lot of ways, the highlight of the trip was those few months in Spain. And because it's sort of that form of travel where you sort of live like a local as much as you can. You shop where the locals shop, and it's more removed from just being a tourist. And as well, I was and you're exactly right. I used that as a base. I'd go off for hiking groups, or go for riding groups, and but it also sort of created a little bit of a routine in terms of catching up with people that I'd met. And I started off I went to Spain, Latin America, with only 2 words of Spanish, and that was "sí" and "qué." But I thought while I was there, well, maybe I'll see if I can improve on that. So I signed up for this Spanish class, and so I turned up, and they said, "Is this?" I said, "Is this a beginner's class?" I said, "Yes." I thought, "Great, this is just what I need." Anyway, the first week did not go well. I couldn't even understand what the instructors talk about. It was all in Spanish. So anyway, they said, "Stick with it; it'll get better." Anyway, end of the week, they gave them their money back, so that didn't go down well. But all up, I did about 8 weeks of Spanish over 5 different countries. But and I sort of enrolled what I call more adults for adult for kindergarten sort of Spanish class, a bit more my level. But just going back to your point, it's I use that as a base, and just going to like a Spanish class for a few days a week for half a day. It gave that sense of routine, that living like a local, and to do that, it's such a great experience. I can add another point on that, George, if you like, about when you get thrown into these different cultures, like the language, and even going to the supermarket to get some milk. It's not called milk; it's called leche. I hope my Spanish is good enough to get the pronunciation right. But it's there's some research that suggests that living in different cultures like that is actually, or experience different cultures, is actually great for our aging brains, because all our senses are being stimulated. Our sights, our smells and vision, and it's sort of almost described like when a little kid is just come into the world. All their senses are all lighted up, learning new things, and it's like us when we put ourselves in that situation. It's challenging, but it's also really stimulating.
So you knew once you were in Spain and you did this 3-month stint, then you knew that you've done the right thing.
No, definitely, yeah. I was. It's always when you take on any challenge, I guess you always have a little bit of a scapegoat. Or worst case, I could come home, but no, definitely. Once I was well into that, that was no regrets, and I would have been, like I was saying, it's better to have tried and failed than not tried at all. And in most cases, when you try it won't fail. It'll take on a course you never expected.
So after 3 months, you put boots on the ground, and off you went.
Yeah, I mean, my original intent was actually to find a similar place in Panama City. That's where the next place was, and use that as a base as well. But that wasn't. I couldn't find a suitable place, and just the short-term rental market wasn't suited for that. So I thought, stuff it. I'll just ditch the suitcase. I left the suitcase with a friend of a friend, and just went backpacking. Just like I said, just to carry on luggage size backpack, and I think too, in terms of progressing, having that time in Spain just gave me a bit more confidence that I can just keep taking the next level, and I think that's an example of. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, you went, travel around the world for 12 months." That's I couldn't do that. That's amazing, sort of thing. But to me, when I did it in steps as well. So no matter where you are, it's just taking those steps to keep progressing, give you that confidence just to go that bit further. So yeah, that was a really exciting part. And it's such a liberating feeling just to backpack, and that's all you got, and it's a really liberating feeling of freedom.
So you backpack into how many countries?
It was all up on the trip. I did 23 countries and stayed in about 126, I think 126 different places with a boat or place I slept in. And I mean, it's right. You might say, "Gee, you slept around a bit." Well, I mean, you're right. I did. I slept in anywhere from in hotels, guest houses, hostels, dormitories, on the floor of a Buddhist monastery in a hammock, and I think I covered just about every form of sleeping arrangement.
Let me put this up here real quick. That is so interesting. Uh, youthful midlife travel.com. I've been to that website today, and you have a video on there of explaining what happened, what you did, and so on and so forth. But you offer people tips of what is it? How to get out of their comfort zone, or uh, I don't know if I can find the right
Yeah.
terminology, but what is it?
Well, see, one of the things that I've found, I guess, rewarding is that my story has inspired other people to do similar things. And even just as a small example, when I was in the other side of Australia, in Queensland, after I'd written the book, the local newspaper did a sort of a feature article on the whole story. Anyway, I was out riding with this, cycling with this group. I was just chatting to one of these guys, and I said, "I'm from Perth, Western Australia," and did a bit of traveling. He said, "Oh, I was just reading a story in the Saturday's paper about this guy from Perth who went backpacking around the world." And I said, "Well, actually, that's me." And anyway, he went on to say how he was inspired by the story. He sent his wife a message, who was away for the weekend, to say how much he appreciated it. And I thought, wow, that's really, to me, it was such a great reward to hear that sort of thing. And another case was a lady from New Zealand. She had lost her husband of 30 years, and he was over in Perth. And there was a bit of a segment on the TV that she heard in the background, and it captured her attention. And so she ordered the book the next day, and then next 12 months she applied for a 12 months leave to do her own form of adventure around the world. And so she's now inspiring, through her courage, inspiring other people. So so no matter what life throws at you, there's opportunity, or there's still a future out of it. And so that's why I'm now setting up a program online. We can go to the website and get some information from other travellers, particularly including women travellers who solo travel around the world, and they share their tips and advice from a woman's perspective. And like I touched on, I'm putting together a program to give people the knowledge and the confidence that if they find themselves in a situation this time of life, they've lost their partner, widowed or separated, that it's just to give them confidence just to get out and do it.
When did you do this, Chris?
2016, I got back at the end of 2017.
What was, I mean, what did you say, 23 countries? Wow. What was your hardest problem, the language barrier?
Well, certainly the language was a challenge, and like I said, I went there and I didn't speak any Spanish at all. But I did. I mean, in the end, after my 8 weeks of Spanish over 5 countries, I was actually putting 2-word sentences together, so I was pretty proud of myself.
What other countries did you go into?
Well, from I mean, most of the countries was when I went from Panama City. Then I backpacked up through Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Guatemala, Belize, and that was another interesting point. Is that people were saying don't go further north than Nicaragua. It's too dangerous. So anyway, when I was there, I noticed people going to Honduras and still coming back. So I thought it can't be that dangerous. So I sort of ventured up there, and had I not gone there, I would have missed out on, there's a place off the Honduras Roatan Island, and there's a lot of Americans that holiday there, and that was a great experience. And then going further up to Guatemala, got involved in teaching some of the children from nearby villages around the lake, teaching them English, and then continued up through Belize. And that's Belize City is apparently one of the highest murder rates cities of the world. But I got through there and ended up in this beautiful island, Cayo Island, and then up through Mexico, then went to Cuba, and just enjoyed the great cultural buzz that Cuba has to offer. And then down to South America, just did the top part of South America from Peru, Machu Picchu, and then up through Ecuador, the trip in the Amazon, out to the Galapagos Islands, and then back to Colombia. And then from that stage off to Southeast Asia, and all through the countries through Southeast Asia.
Wow. Was there any harrowing experiences?
Well, there was certainly a few sinking feelings. Like one, I mentioned the Galapagos Islands. Like I never really knew where Galapagos Islands, was. I never really researched this trip. But my research came from talking to other people in hostels. That was always my preference, stay in hostels. And they're not like sort of the perception that most of us have about these sleazy joints. A lot of them are really professional, almost sort of scaled down version of resorts. And I generally stay in a private room. But as when other travellers were saying it was a highlight of the trip, and Galapagos Islands was one of those. So I one morning I happened to wake up early, pack my bag, got a taxi to the airport, and that afternoon I was 700 miles off the Pacific coast in the Galapagos Islands. Anyway, there's 3 main islands, and I was on this one island for 3 days, and I got a ferry to the next island. And this is where I realised that sometimes you have to do some planning, because I prepaid my accommodation for a few days and booked a tour. Anyway, I had about $10 left, so I said, "Is there an ATM?" And they said, "Sorry, sir, no ATM on this island." Well, that was another one of those sinking feelings where I didn't even have enough money to buy, because everything's cash, didn't have enough cash to buy a ferry ticket off the island. So anyway, I went into emergency mode, and with my last $10, I went down the store and bought a packet of tuna, a tin of tuna, and a packet of pasta. I thought, well, at least I can live for a few days. But anyway, then I had this great idea. I thought, well, why don't I create my own ATM machine? So, because I'd heard that somewhere on the island there was a restaurant that took Visa. So anyway, leaving my emergency rations behind. I set off to find this restaurant for a more deserving meal. Anyway, I sat near the checkout desk. So then, as each person came up to pay the bill, I'd say, "Excuse me, are you paying by cash?" So I'd take the cash, pay by credit card. Then after a few withdrawals, I had enough money to live for the next few days and get a ticket off the island. So it was one of those things and quite often, you find yourself thinking, oh, great, this has come to an end. I'm stuck, what do I do? But you think outside the square, and often there's a solution there.
Did you feel that freedom while you were on your journey? I mean, was there a looseness about you? How would you describe it?
Oh, no, definitely. As I said before, I mean, just got your backpack, and it's just really such a liberating feeling, a liberating of freedom, and it's I just can't describe it any more than just that liberating feeling. And I mean, a lot of people say, like, were you ever lonely? I mean, I was traveling solo. It's the first time I ever traveled this period of time on my own on the other side of the world, and as I say to people, I never really felt lonely, that low sense of loneliness in its true word. But I mean, obviously, I was conscious I was alone many times. But and I think that the game changer is traveling today, is that every country I went, I always got the local SIM cards. I always had good internet connection. And that meant I was always in constant contact with my family and close friends back home. Like, I get a message from, sons or daughter, "Hey, going, Dad, where are you?" So a bit of a quick message, or have a video chat with the grandkids, and, "Oh, look, Papa's riding on the back of an elephant." And so there was that created that base sort of social connection. But then on top of that was the fantastic people you meet along the way. Some I met through doing day hikes, or the Spanish class I was doing, and some of those people that remained in contact. And recently did a trip to North America and Europe, and those people were kind enough to ask us to stay with them. And so it's those friendships you build, and as well, the apps on your phone, there's ways of connecting with social groups. Like when I was in Peru, it hadn't been my birthday, and I just landed. I hadn't met anyone, and so I looked up online. There's this organisation of expatriates, and they had their monthly social function on. So joined up, went along, and dancing the night away, and so so there's really, in a lot of ways, you don't have to be lonely.
One thing for certain, Chris, I don't think you'll be one of those fellows that will end up sitting in the rocking chair, rocking back and forth, saying, "I wished I would have. I wished I would have." Because you did. You did. Uh, just listening to you. I did a lot of traveling when I was a youngster, when I was a young fellow. Uh, but just listening to you wants me to go out there and get that backpack, put some things, put some things in there, uh, and go. But I'd be back for breakfast. Believe me, I'd be back for breakfast. I, I'd only go down around the corner somewhere, but I'd be back for breakfast. But my oh my, what would you tell people that are in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, and even their 70s? Uh, that would say, "Boy, I'd like to do something like that, but nah, not. I don't think I could do it." What would you tell people?
Well, it's the same thing I went through. Like, it's sort of really listen to the pull of your heart. What is your heart trying to tell you? And then the next thing you'll hear is all that voice inside your head coming up with all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. And those reasons, they're there for a good reason. They're there to protect us. But some will say, peel back like an onion, peel back each layer and listen to each concern and say, well, okay, well, like in my case, I was going for 12 months. Okay, well, that's loneliness aspect. Well, I'll keep in contact. Another one was, I'm too old. Well, am I really too old? And so it really talking to that voice inside your head and do it. and address each of those issues. Because if you let them just sort of clutter away in your head, that they'll control you. They're there to protect. So just talk to them and really do what the pull of your heart is trying to tell you. And the other thing too is that take baby steps. Like I said before, mine was steps at my own level. But if someone is perhaps, they maybe not even feel uncomfortable traveling interstate, just start those steps and then build that confidence and be prepared to make mistakes. Like I've given you some examples where I made a complete idiot of myself, but hey, that's part of the fun. You've got a story to tell, and it's because the other thing is, I came back from my trip with one question. Like I was traveling, there were thousands of our young generation out there, and to me they were inspiring. They were confident, adventurous, traveling. They were mixing with different cultures. And I often, most of the time, I felt like the old man of the group. Although quite often when I got engaged with them and got to know my story, I said, "Oh, you're a legend," because. But the point is that we may not have had that opportunity when we were their age, but we've got more the opportunity now as we've got nearing retiring and we've got more resources and the thing that's stopping us is as we get older we get stuck in our comfort zone and my challenge is just to talk to that voice inside the head and follow the pull of the heart and just do it.
I often tell people that if you think about it too long, you will think yourself right out of it. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you got the right answer. Talk back to that voice.
Yeah. Well, if you're like me, just tell it to shut up, get on with it. We're doing it.
Right. That's the way to do it. My oh my. Let me put this book back up here again. That is some awesome stuff. The Youthful Art of Midlife Travel. One man's journey that will be I can't see it. I'm blurred up here. To to live your travel adventures. Chris Herrmann. My oh my oh my. What a tremendous story. Get that book, ladies and gentlemen, and you can get it by going right there. Purchase the book, Amazon.com. Just type in there Chris Herrmann. That's with two R's and two N's, Herrmann. Chris Herrmann. It'll pop right up. And make sure that you go to his website, youthfulmidlifetravel.com. You'll enjoy it. And there is a link on there that if you click on it, it'll take you straight to Amazon, right to his book, and you can purchase it there. So what have you been doing since you come back, Chris?
Well, the first 12 months after I got back, I wrote the book, and that was an interesting thing. Like I never intended to write a book. In fact, I mean, going back, I never intended to take this gap year, and but then once I did, then I started this blog up, and the main reason was for the blog was to keep my children informed where I was. But then I started, telling a few stories and funny stories and so the blog became a weekly event, and people said we were inspired by the story, said you should write a book. So that's what led to the book. So nothing of this was planned. And so then for that period of time, then I was just going around talking to different groups about the story and in Australia, the different media. In fact, there's a Chinese version of the book coming out or sometime soon, earlier this year. The publisher in Taiwan has taken up the worldwide rights for the Chinese version of it. So, and now my focus is, like I said before, is putting together a program just to encourage. So it's all right if you like. I'm on a mission. Like I said, our generation is missing out on all the fun. We feel we take the comfort zone of going on cruises or resorts. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. But I think there's this part where we can challenge ourselves, and that's what I'm on a mission to encourage people just to get out and take on that challenge of adventure. And so once again, that they do it, then they can inspire others about do it and spread the word.
I appreciate what you said earlier. We all need to understand that life is but a vapor. Uh, we're here, we're gone. And I've told my wife recently, I said, I guess this is the latter part of our lives. I said, but I want to go out blazing. I just want to go out blazing. I,
Yeah,
I want to go out. I want to go out. When I go out, I want that fire to still be burning inside of me. The passion, the fire that I have for doing things like this and other things. But when I go out, I want to go out with the fire still burning. Uh, it'll have to burn itself out after I'm gone, but I want to go out with the fire burning. And when you said that life is very, very short, uh, and so just when you do look up, say, just get on with it. That's what we need to do then, right?
yeah, exactly. Because even we all know people who've been struck down with some sort of illness, the dreaded C, and that changed their life. And to me, it's living it while we can.
Live life to the fullest.
Mm.
Wow.
So that's a great approach there, George. I couldn't agree more.
In closing, Chris, you met a lot of young people on your journey, uh, and they kind of inspired you, huh?
Well, that's right. It's yeah, like I said, they were inspiring because they were adventurous and just a real level of confidence about them. I like I said, I think us as a generation, we're missing out on all the fun. Why should they have all the fun? Seriously.
Right, right. You're absolutely right. And if we all think back to when we were young, we had that carefree, let's go do it. You know, if something was happening, we were going to be there. If something wasn't happening, we was going to make something happen when we
Yeah,
were. Oh, to have that same feeling again, uh, that's what keeps us young. Something like that. Chris,
yeah.
Chris, thank you so very very much for spending time with us tonight, for coming on. Listen, we've got to stay in touch because I imagine that you're going to be a very busy man uh, on your mission. Do you do a lot of speaking engagements by any chance?
Well, I do. I do a lot of speaking of different organisations around in Australia, and I make myself available for speaker opportunities in the US. So I'm open to opportunities that are coming up over the next 6 months or so.
If you get close to Delaware here in the States, will you please holler at me uh,
All right.
and let me know, and we'll sit down and we'll have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever.
Okay.
But please let me know.
All
And
right.
we'd like to have you come back on the show too as your journey progresses. We'd like to have you come back and give us an update from time to time. Would you do
All
that?
right. Yeah. No, I'd love to do that because it's been a pleasure chatting with you, George.
It's been a lot of fun, Chris. Been a lot of fun. And now that you are several hours into Thursday and I'm moving later into Wednesday night, uh, Thursday still seems to be going well.
Well, let me just check. Look out the window here, and no, look, you'll be impressed. It's looking really good. And it's giving me an excuse to take these glasses off that have been slowly slipping down my face, and I
I take mine off because I
think
get,
I think I need some blue tack on them.
yeah, I take mine off because I get that glare off
All
of it,
right.
and
Yeah.
it just drives me crazy. But
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun, Chris. It's been a lot of fun. We'll keep pushing this out there. uh, But send that link that you copied down earlier tonight to family, friends, here, there, everywhere, and they come in because that video will be up there and people can just keep going back to it, back to it, back to it, back to it.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
to it. So thank you so much, Chris. You are a real gentleman. It was a lot of fun. You've lifted my spirits, and I just trust that as you continue in your journey, you'll just continue to inspire people to get up and just do it. So I think that was well said. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks very much, George. Once again, it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen, whether you're down the street, around the corner, across America, or somewhere around this great big world, thank you for tuning in tonight with our guest, Mr. Chris Herrmann from down there in Australia. And listen, Friday night at 8 p.m., Stephen Page will be with us from Argentina. So this is our international week. We're here, there, and everywhere. And so if it's nighttime where you're at, have a great night. If it's already daytime, which it is where Chris is at, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. But regardless of what time it is and where you might be kind one to another, take care of one another, smile at somebody, give them a little tap on the back. And don't ever be afraid to tell somebody, I love you, because time is very, very short. So until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, I just trust that God will keep you right in the center of his hand. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night, Chris.